So I was looking at a couple verses recently, and I'm going to read them to you guys. It's Matthew 6:25 is what we're starting off with. It says, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat or drink, or about your body, what you will wear. Is not life more than food, and the body more than clothes? Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Can any one of you, by worrying, add a single hour to your life?" Then later on, he goes to Matthew 6:34. Jesus goes on to Matthew 6:34, and he says, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." And, I'm not just here to read verses and just accept them as they are. I'm here to challenge, and I'm here to critically think. And when I read some of these verses, specifically Matthew 6:27, which says, "Can any one of you by worrying add a single hour to your life?" When I read this at first, I think to myself, well, isn't it more about the quality of life rather than the quantity? Isn't it more about what I do with my life rather than how long I live? Because based off this verse, Jesus is emphasizing how we shouldn't worry because it's not going to add any more hours to our lives. But then this also means that Jesus is assuming that I care about how many hours I have in my life. He thinks I prioritize that. But I would say that I prioritize making my life better, not adding time necessarily. And sometimes adding time can make your life better because time is realistically the ultimate currency we have in this world. But you get what I'm saying. Because if worrying makes me invest in my future, invest in myself, take care of my body, study, then it sounds like I should worry. It sounds like worrying is something I should do. But I then realized I was making multiple mistakes. The first mistake I was making was taking Jesus' words in isolation instead of using other verses to reinforce it. For example, let's say I take Matthew 6:34. Let's say I take Matthew 6:34, which says, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own." Let's say I take that verse by itself. When I take that verse by itself, I don't think about tomorrow. I don't prepare at all. I'm just taking each day at a time. Taking life each day at a time. But when we use this verse and then reinforce it with another verse, like Luke 14:28, which says, "Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it?" And this verse is telling us to be diligent, to think ahead, and to prepare. So when you take both of these, when you take Matthew 6:34 and Luke 14:28, and you sandwich them, we now get to see the full picture, the full story. We get to understand that there's a difference between worrying and preparation, because worrying is looking at what you can control and thinking about it all the time while simultaneously doing nothing about the things that you can control and doing nothing about the things that you can move forward to and move toward. And then preparation is looking at what you can control and trying your best to do something about it. So ultimately, the problem isn't just worrying. The problem is essentially taking tomorrow's worries, tomorrow's problems, thinking about them, while simultaneously neglecting today's responsibilities. And I talked about before, literally just a couple seconds ago, how you can control things, but a lot of you guys think you can't control anything. But you can control your effort, you can control what you put your attention to, and you can control what you think about. Because you have a human brain. You have a brain. I don't know if you knew that, but you have a brain. And if this is your first time noticing that, welcome to the world. Welcome to the team. But a lot of you guys try to worry about things that you can't control. But you have to come to the logical conclusion that you can't decide whether or not it's going to rain tomorrow. You can't decide whether or not meteors are going to fall from the sky. But you can control how you move throughout your day. So when it comes to worrying, you need to look at life from an optimization standpoint. Complete and utter logic. Ask yourself, what can I control? And if I can't control it, I need to understand that just by me even thinking about the thing that I can't control, just by me thinking about the irrelevant thing, I'm wasting energy. And the more energy I waste thinking about things that are irrelevant, thinking about things that I cannot control, the more energy that I'll waste going to other things. The more energy that I waste thinking about things that I can't control, the more energy I waste thinking about irrelevant things, the less energy I'll have to put into the things that I can control, that are relevant to me. So, how do we optimize? How do we mitigate the amount of energy we use thinking about irrelevant things? It's actually pretty simple. First, create goals, and then if what's directly in front of you isn't relevant to your goals, then don't even pay attention to it. And I know this sounds super simple, but a lot of you guys don't even take this serious enough. I've gotten to the point where I have extreme selective hearing. I only ever can listen to things, I only can ever hear things that are relevant and that matter. And I know that sounds bad, but it's really not. Because I only hear things that matter. Think about it. And if one of my goals is to be a good friend, then I'm going to be able to listen to them. I'm going to be able to hear their emotions, understand their emotions, and then respond articulately. But for instance, if someone's telling me how to do something, I ask someone on how to do something, they tell me how to do it, and then they go on some tangent on how to do something else that doesn't apply to what I'm doing at all, then I won't be able to listen because it's not on my to-do list. And once again, I know it sounds crazy, but it's really not, because if it's irrelevant, then why have it take up space in my brain? Because my brain automatically throws it out. And honestly, when I say it out loud, it sounds like I just learned this in school. Because you jump from subject to subject. You go from this subject to that subject, from semester to semester. One semester you're learning this, and the next semester later, you no longer need this information, so you toss it out. So everyone does it. I'm just more aware of it. And I use it to my advantage. And I just want to mention one more thing. I talked about before how you shouldn't take Jesus' words in isolation. And so you might be thinking, well, Luke, that's kind of unfair to the people that only heard the one sermon, the Sermon on the Mount. Because they heard Matthew 6:34, but not Luke 14:28 maybe. But the Sermon on the Mount had so much to it. It's probably the most well-known sermon and speech in the world in all of history. And not only did it say Matthew 6:34 where it said, don't worry about tomorrow, but it did also talk about being diligent and thinking about tomorrow and to prepare. And we know this because of Matthew 7:24, which says, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. So Jesus is talking about being diligent, thinking about tomorrow, thinking about the future, and preparing. He's talking about building your house on the rock, thinking about the future.